Welcome to the Sales Podcast, Session 61, the Pot, Porn, and Prison Edition. Welcome to the 61st edition of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today we have what I think, I'm pretty sure, pretty confident, is our first former prisoner on the Sales Podcast. Mark Lyford had led and is still leading an interesting life. You'll hear his story of becoming a millionaire, running porn sites, built a huge network, then being young and foolish, as we all are. He fought the powers that be, lost all of his millions, returned home, broke, owing family, turned to growing marijuana in England. He was very good at it, right up to the point he got arrested, put in jail, had the book thrown at him. And he tells his story of overcoming that and then directing his energies and his skills at building a legal entity. He's now an author, trainer, and he has a really great story. So along those lines, today's joke is about prison. And it's about work or prison. In prison, you spend the majority of your time in an 8x10 cell. At work, you spend most of your time in a 6x8 cubicle. Makes you wonder, huh? In prison, you get 3 meals a day. At work, you only get one break for one meal, and you have to pay for it. What is up with that? In prison, you get time off for good behavior. At work, you get rewarded for good behavior with more work. In prison, a guard locks and unlocks all the doors for you. At work, you must carry around a security card and unlock and open all the doors yourself. In prison, you can watch TV and play games. At work, you get fired for watching TV and playing games. In prison, you get your own toilet. At work, you have to share. In prison, they allow your family and friends to visit. At work, you cannot even speak to your family and friends. In prison, all expenses are paid by taxpayers with no work required. At work, you get to pay all the expenses to go to work, and then they deduct taxes from your salary to pay for prisoners. In prison, finally, there are wardens who are often sadistic. At work, they are called managers. So that's not motivation for you to branch out and do your own thing. I don't know what is. It's kind of sad how funny and applicable that work versus prison little analogy is, huh? Well, let's move on, shall we? Because we are not in a prison. We're making our own way. And today is my day. I work diligently towards my goals, which are bigger than me. I bite off more than I can chew because only then will I truly know my current limits, and surpassing them becomes my new goal for today. Through education, accountability partners, and bold, decisive action, today will be better than yesterday, and tomorrow will be better yet. I'm ready to produce. One thing I just added, if you've been listening for a little while, I'm making it easy for you to show a little Twitter love for the Sales Podcast. And if you visit thesaleswhisperer.com/love, it will pop up a pre-written tweet, and all you have to do is hit submit. So if you could do that for me real quick, I would appreciate it. thesaleswhisperer.com/love. And without further ado, you will love this interview with Mark Lyford. Mark Lyford, all the way from the UK, the rebel entrepreneur. Porn, paradise, pot, and prison life, business, and lessons learned. Welcome to the Sales Podcast. How are you?
Great. Great to be here. Thank you, Wes.
What a mouthful, man. It's great meeting you virtually. One day, when you're allowed to come to the U.S., let me know. I may just have to come to the U.K. to see you.
Yeah, you should.
We got to make it happen. So you have quite the interesting story. It ties in nicely with what I'm launching now with the Market Like a Man. Maybe you did some things wrong. Maybe you did some things right. But you did them in a big way, right?
Absolutely.
So would you mind taking a couple of minutes? You know, don't tell us everything yet. We'll dig into it. But just give us a quick thumbnail sketch of who you are and how we came to be here at this point right now.
Yeah, well, I started online back in '97, and so I'm kind of a dinosaur of online, I guess.
Yep.
So my first mentor was a guy that was in the property industry over in the Bahamas. And I had how I met him was a really weird situation in itself. I was a mark for one of the Nigerian scammers back in 97. So I didn't realize at the time, but I placed an ad in a magazine here in the UK called Business Age. It's no longer around, wanting investors for one of my businesses that I wanted to launch. And subsequently, a couple of weeks later, I had a letter from Nigeria. And bear in mind, I'm 17, so I'm not... It sounds ridiculous at the time to say this stuff, but at the time it felt right, but now it sounds ridiculous. So I thought that I'd got this investor wanting to invest in property. So one night until about 3 o'clock in the morning, I faxed, because email wasn't around then, obviously. I faxed a bunch of people from the International Real Estate Directory saying that I'd got an investor that wanted to invest in property. And one of those people was a guy called Harry Dan, who lived in the Freeport in the Bahamas. And he called me the next day, and I told him what was going on. He said, listen, I get one of these letters every week. Just ignore it. It's a scam. But I was convinced. And then I got the idea that the Bahamas sounded a nice place, and I really got on with this guy. So I used to speak to him 2 or 3 times a week, pitching him ideas and just generally absorbing as much information as I could from him. And one day he just turned around and said, well, if you're that interested in the Bahamas, get yourself on a plane and I'll show you around. So 6 weeks later, I was there. So I arrived in the Bahamas at the age of 18 years old, instantly fell in love with the place. The idea of being there was something that appealed to me. So then I got the idea of, I was just getting online. So I said, right, I'm going to set up a site called the International, Property Network International, to basically sell high-end real estate. But the reality is it was about 8 years before its time. It was too early, way too early. So one day in his office, I used to go over there 3 or 4 times a year, and one day in his office he said to me once, look, there's only one thing making any money online, and that's the adult industry. And at the time, I wasn't really interested. I'm like, I want to carry on with the property. And eventually, I decided that maybe I should look at it. So I started looking into the industry, and it took me about 10 months of being ripped off by different companies and what have you. And then I just worked as hard as I could to get the adult stuff online going. And then finally, it all started coming into place late 98. So I was sitting there in a 1-bedroom apartment, about £10,000 in debt, and just driving a cab at night to pay some bills and working on my online business during the day. That's how it all started. And I went from that to building 32,000 sites in 2 years and making $2 million a year. So I then ended up living in the Bahamas, but I couldn't make any more money than I was making with the network that I was working with, the affiliate network I was working with. So I decided to set up my own network ready for video, because broadband was just coming in around 2000, 2001. So spent way much more money than I should have done setting the network up, and launched the network in July 2001. So I'd put a lot of money into it. I'd sold off my existing site's network to somebody else, launched it on the 15th of July 2001, and then all hell broke loose. The company that I worked with previously had found out I was launching my own network, and they didn't like it. And then all kinds of legal things started happening within days of me launching the network. And I flew over to LA and saw the owner of the company, and he basically said if it cost him $1 million to put me out of business, that's what it would cost. And I, in my naivety, just kept fighting and fighting and fighting. So cut a long story short, through 2001, 2002, I lost about $4.5 million fighting. And I actually spent more than I'd got to keep staff going, and I'm a loyal guy, so I've got a lot of people working around me. Anyway, came back to the UK, tail between my legs, And nothing then, because of what the whole industry knew of the problems I'd had, nothing really worked online. So I did all manner of different things to try and get back on track. In retrospect, the mistake wasn't doing the network that I was trying to set up. The mistake was using everything I'd got to do it. And then, you get to desperate times. You've got this debt around you that you've gone from 2 years ago earning all of this money to now being in debt, which at the time when you're earning £150,000 a month, the company's bringing in that much money, to go and borrow money to keep going doesn't seem a major problem. But, of course, $10 is a lot of money when you haven't got it. Mm-hmm. These are the things you learn. So I got desperate, and nothing I did made any success at all. So unfortunately, when you get backed into a corner, you feel there's nothing else to do. There's always options. I've learned that. But at the time, you don't think there's options. And everything I knew was online, and it just wasn't working. So I decided, in retrospect, stupidly, to try growing weed, which wasn't the best thing in the world decision-wise, but I was very good at it. And it sounds ridiculous, but it was the first thing I was any good at for a long time. So I had the decision to make, do I go and try and I was never interested in making lots and lots of money out of it and it being a long-term thing. All in my mind I wanted to do was pay these debts off and start again. But, of course, the best laid plans never come. And I made the decision to grow a large number in a warehouse in a city local to me. And to cut a real long story short, 3 weeks before the first crop, I got caught. Air conditioning unit caught fire, fire brigade were called, and then I was arrested. So that was 2006. So it was a big rise and fall story, really, which culminated in me spending 14 months on police bail and then going to court in the October 2007. And my lawyer told me I was looking to potentially get 2 to 2.5 years in custody, and the judge gave me 4 years.
Wow.
Which, someone that's never been in trouble before, was a big body blow. And over here, you do half of your time. So essentially it was a 2-year prison sentence servable.
And that was on top of the 14 months you already spent?
Yeah, although I was outside, I was free, as it were.
Gotcha.
Bail. But when you haven't been in trouble before, being on bail is bad because your whole life's on hold. You don't know what's happening. And 2006 was a bad year also because my wife at the time decided she'd had enough prior to any of the legal problems I'd had, and she left. So, yeah, hard times. Mm-hmm. So I basically did 2 years in prison, which was hard going. But after 2 or 3 months of getting my head around it, decided to shed all the weight that I'd put on, lost 50 pounds in a year just by exercising, and then decided just to start learning again. And my prison cell kind of looked like a library, really. I was fortunate where I could have courses and what have you sent in to me. So I saved up for a DVD player from the £8 a week earnings that I was getting as a cleaner in prison, and started learning and learnt and got fit and just kept learning. So I started life again in October 2009. The day I got out, I launched my blog. And I set this challenge of trying to generate $1 million in a year back online, legitimately, of course.
Right.
I didn't achieve it. I only achieved about $1/3 turnover. But it was all right because when you start again, I literally had £100 to my name the day I started, and I was still in debt. In fact, I was deeper in debt when I got out than when I went in because of all the interest and stuff that accumulated. So I started again in 2009, and I've been internet marketing and publishing since. It hasn't been as easy as I thought it was going to be, but turning my skills of online and all of the stuff from the many years I've been online has certainly been of help. And that's kind of where I'm at now. As I say, I think when you start again, you think life is going to be easier just simply because you're out and able to do what you need to do. But I think you can build up a picture that's perhaps a little bit rosier than it perhaps is. And it was a hard couple of years starting again.
So let me ask you something. People might be listening to this, and might want to blow you off and thinking, you're a bad guy. I mean, are you a bad guy?
No, I just think there's two ways. I do a lot of speaking over here, and a very good friend of mine who's a professional speaker said to me, normally in a crowd, an audience, there are three types of people. There are people that like you for whatever reason, there are people that don't particularly like you for whatever reason, and there are people that are indifferent to you. And I'm not going to have the third category. I'm a Marmite character. I'm somebody they either like or don't. Now, there's two ways people can look at me. They can think I'm an ex-porn peddling, drug-dealing scumbag, or you can think I'm an entrepreneur that pushed the boundaries a little too far when he was desperate. I have no moral issue with the adult industry as such. It wasn't like I was on sets looking at naked women all day. My days consisted of looking at spreadsheets with traffic numbers and conversions. The weed, it wasn't the best idea in the world, but that's what happened. So no, to answer your question, I don't think I am. When people get to know me, the story just makes it more interesting. So there's two ways of looking at me, and ultimately, as I say, the type of entrepreneur that I am, not everybody's going to gel with and like.
Right.
But that's all right. I'd rather be.
I always tell people, if you're not pissing somebody off by noon, you're not marketing, right?
Exactly.
And the two examples I always give is Howard Stern and Rush Limbaugh. People are not ambivalent about those guys. They love them or they hate them. There's no in between, but they dominate their genre. They are the king of their niches. So,
absolutely. I mean, you've read some of the book. One of the things with the book is it's extremely honest.
Right.
I talk about everything in there. I talk about the highs, the lows including severe depression. I talk about everything. And that is the life of an entrepreneur, whether you've done some of the things I've done or not.
Right.
And if you're an entrepreneur, it's not an easy ride as people think. And like you said, if you're not making a mark, being normal, I hate that word, but being normal in this world gets you nowhere. And I didn't set out to be, I didn't go and do some of the things I did just to not be normal. That's just me.
Right.
Ultimately, I've made some bad decisions, but ultimately the the decisions I've made that have turned out to be very negative are actually the biggest learning curves ever. Mm-hmm. The 22 years that I've been doing my own thing, I haven't worked for anybody in 22 years. You can't buy that experience. Even prison. Prison was one of the... I had a good friend, a long-term friend of mine came to visit me in prison. The guy's in his 70s now. And he said to me, Mark, this is one of the best 2 years you'll ever have of your life. And I thought he was... ridiculous.
You thought he was smoking dope, huh?
Yeah, but reality is... that still sticks with me. You learn a lot. You learn a lot about people. You learn a lot about yourself. When you're sitting on a bed and you're 18 hours in a cell, you have a lot of thinking time to do, and you appreciate stuff. So the trouble I had before, in my major success, I had no structure to my goals. I just wanted $100 million and nothing in between, Right. There was nothing in between the plans. Now, I'm approaching 40. I have very specific plans, and I choose very specific goals, and those goals are broken up. You learn a lot. But, some people said, well, what would have happened if it hadn't have gone wrong with the adult industry? Well, ultimately, I would have carried on. In retrospect, I should have gone and put a large chunk of the money earned from... that into something completely different. But again, it's all part of the learning, I really believe, I do believe in fate. I believe everything happens for a reason. And I think now everything that I can draw on with my business now from the past will set me. The future's bright again,
Right.
and a lot of the lessons learned will be applied.
All right, so we got a lot of things to talk about, man. First of all, why 32,000 sites, and how? How do you make that many websites?
We had a kick-ass developer at the time. The development of online was nothing like it is today. PHP wasn't even around. Basically, if we saw a trend, we filled it. We saw an up-and-coming traffic trend. It's all based on traffic. How many people are looking at these sites, and how can we fill the gap? So if we saw a certain type of adult material that was coming popular, we went and filled that gap. So when I joined the network, so the idea of this network was for one monthly fee, you got access to all of the sites on the network. So when I joined, there was about 600 sites on the network. And when I left, there was 320,000. So it was always my goal, always my aim to have 10% of the sites on the network.
But, I mean, that's 43.8 new websites a day for 2 years. How do you spit out that many websites?
Like that. We were actually at our height, we were building 500 sites a day. And when I say sites, they were feeder sites. So they were 2, 3, 4-page sites featuring into our, funneling into our 100 premium sites. So the 32,000...
a 3 or 4 page website, that's still 500 a day. That's 1,500 pages.
Yeah, we had a computer program doing it, though. So we had as it says in the book, one of my wife's friends at the time, her full-time job was just coming up with site names.
Wow.
And then we had a program, take those site names, take a pool of content, and build the sites for us. We had the whole thing automated down to where we could do 500 a day. And that's how we did it. So those sites were like yearly sites. The success of that network, people think, was because they had a monthly program. And this feeds into, well, I think the real way of making money online is recurring income. So every day I could go to sleep knowing within 2%, 73 to 75% of the income that we generated 30 days prior was going to come in again the next day.
Right.
So 32,000 sites were yearly payment sites. So you pay $25 for a year to get access to those. But then the premium content, which we had about 120 premium sites, you paid monthly for. So all of the back end, all of the members areas of our 32,000 sites promoted our monthly sites.
Mm-hmm.
That's how ultimately we made the money. But the network had, I can't remember exactly, but it had millions of members paying yearly before it launched its monthly membership.
Mm-hmm.
So all of those sites that were the yearly membership sites, that's why we built so many, because they were just fishing nets to get as many people into our monthly as we could. So my goal was to always have 10% of the network, which we achieved.
Right. So in today's language, I mean, they were just a bunch of lead magnets. You were just creating a ton of lead magnets, funneling them into your funnel. Yeah.
We used to call them feeder sites. That's exactly what they were. They just fed people into our monthly premium site. So we made 95% of the income from the monthly recurrings. And personally, that's, for me, the ultimate way of making money online is having a recurring income base. Selling one-off products is all very well and good, but having a membership-type system, whatever, you could be in any business. It doesn't matter. I know businesses of all different types and niches that are making monthly recurring income. And the recurring income ultimately is the way of going. Now, we're rebuilding our recurring income at the moment because PayPal had a problem with one of my PayPal accounts a couple of years ago, and that shut off a lot of my recurring income. But, yeah, recurring income, waking up in the morning and knowing you've got X amount of money coming in on average is the way to go.
So how can people start now? So you started from scratch, coming out of prison. Your goal was to make $1 million in a year, but still, you made $350,000 in a year.
I didn't keep it. I generated 330 some odd thousand. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. That's a fantastic business. Most people listening to this would kill to generate $100,000 in top line revenue. So, I mean, what did you do starting
My
from
advice
scratch?
is this: don't even think about doing anything that doesn't interest you. Right? If you're just doing it to make money, you'll get bored fast.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying the adult industry interested me, because it didn't. To be quite frank, I got completely bored of it. Once you've seen one site, you've seen them all as far as I'm concerned. But the systemizing and the growth interested me.
Right.
So, we paid a lot of money back then to get that system produced to build all of those sites. Personally, moving forward, I'm not doing anything that doesn't interest me anymore, because that's where the real passion lies. So, to answer your question, whatever it is that interests you, you should go with. But never put all your eggs in one basket at the same time. So there's that paradox of concentrate on one thing until it works, but also know when to give up. One of my problems is I didn't know when to give up. I should have given up about the time I had about $1 million still in the bank and then gone and done something else.
Right.
Never put everything into one basket. Personally, setting up online now, pick something that's got a high demand and a high profit margin. So personally, we sell software and info products. Now, if you look at, let's say, clickbank.com, Clickbank is going through a whole bunch of changes. 3-4 years ago, Clickbank was, in my internet marketing niche, rocking and rolling. They're just going through a whole bunch of changes. But if you look at what is on Clickbank, you'll see the highest selling products on Clickbank. Digital products and software and info products still, to me, is one of the best ways of starting, because you create the product, you can sell it over and over again, and there's no cost in doing so. There's a nominal cost in server costs. Ultimately, that's what I'm telling people they should be doing. So if you've got something of specific... I mean, I know a good friend of mine makes a full-time living by selling RC car-related info and stuff. There's remote control cars and stuff.
Right.
I know somebody that runs a full-time soccer membership, teaching people how to teach soccer. There's all kind. It doesn't have to be. I'm personally bored with the make money online market. I thought that's what I needed to get into when I started again, but the reality is, it's very boring. So one of our things we're at the moment working on is software, and software is great because it's very scalable. So if you're sitting there thinking, well, this all sounds very good, but I don't know where to start, the key to anything online is traffic, right? If you haven't got traffic, you're screwed. So learning how to get traffic is the main thing. There's 4 areas anybody that's trying to get an online business started, they need to be looking at. Traffic generation, affiliate marketing, either being an affiliate, which is a great way of starting. If you can master the traffic, you don't necessarily need your own products to start.
Yep.
On the flip side of that, utilizing affiliates, like we're going through a whole new product funnel at the moment, and our key is how can we get affiliates promoting it? So affiliate marketing both ways, you being an affiliate and attracting affiliates. Membership sites, recurring memberships is the other thing you've got to master. And list building. Ultimately, building a list of subscribers and buyers is the way of going. Like, I went to some seminars here in the UK when I first started again, and I heard all of these, in my market, people saying, I've got 100,000 plus people on my list, so naturally Marky decides he wants to go and get 100,000 list. I did it. It was a pain in the ass. It didn't make too much money for the amount of people I got on my list. And we then started concentrating on building a list of buyers, because I would much rather have 1,000 people on my list that have actually bought something from me than 100,000 that never have.
Right.
They're the 4 key elements: traffic, list building, memberships, and affiliates. If you can master those 4 in any niche, you can make money online with some hard work.
Right. Well, and essentially that's how I built up the Sales Whisperer. I was really nothing more than a glorified affiliate for Infusionsoft. 6 years ago, 2008, they didn't have the whole certified partner program. So when you got certified, you basically would earn an affiliate commission for generating traffic that went to them watched the demo and ended up buying. And I was still in corporate America, so I was able to blog and write and generate traffic. I generated more leads, made more money, and then the recurring income from Infusionsoft gave me the money I needed to leave corporate America. And then
you've done it,
and then hit it hard.
You've done it there. You've done exactly what I've just gone through then.
Yeah, and it was a multi-year process. People are they're duped. They're duped by the Nigerian bankers. They're duped by the get-rich-quick stuff.
There's nothing online that's easy, right? The only good thing about online is the overheads are low, and you can keep costs low until you're making money. That's one of the best things. For me, overheads are the killer of all business.
Yep.
So if you can keep your overheads low and work at it, there's so many resources out there. You can go and look at so many resources to find out if the market you're looking at getting into actually has traffic, actually has people searching for that information. And then look at, have people got money to spend in that market? I was on stage once and I was talking to about 250 people about setting up an online business. But a lot of those people really thought they could press some buttons and make money. Well, welcome to the real world. It's not like that. As well as I do, it's a lot of work. I would never do anything else. I have no problem with working hard. But everybody I talk to says I've got to tell them you've got to put the effort in. But yeah, that's the key to it. Well, and then when the snowball effect starts, as you've experienced yourself, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Then you got a whole set of other problems.
Yeah. Then you got to grow and bring in the right people, and how do you want to grow, and what things you want to expand into.
A good friend and marketer of mine, a guy called Simon Hodgkinson over here, told me when I first started again, he said, Mark, the first $30,000 a month is the hardest. Once you've got $1,000 a day coming in, things become easier. Obviously, but not just easier because of the money, but the momentum starts, you get people coming to you, and things just become easier. So bringing that down, look, I've identified that within my markets, what most people want is, like you just said, you wanted to escape a corporate America. What is needed to do that? For most people, it's about $5,000 a month. Well, you break that down. It's approximately, $175 some odd dollars a day. So break it down. Don't be staring at the $5,000 thinking, how am I going to do that from scratch? 175. Let's call it $200 a day with expenses, right? What are you going to do to bring $200 a day? Now, if you're sitting there, this is where the recurring comes in. And you'll know this yourself. You get recurring payments every month. That makes your life a lot easier than having to think, I got to go and sell $200 a day of product. So then you bring it back down. In a membership model, let's say your membership is $40 a month for something. You would never charge 40, it'd be 37 or what, depending on what market. But let's just call it 40. That's 5 new members a day. Now, to get 5 new members a day that stick, you've probably got to be bringing 20 new people a day into your funnel, offering them a trial of whatever it is you're offering. You just got to break the numbers down like that and say, right, how am I going to get my 20 people a day? What have I got to do to get 20 people a day even signing up to take a look at what I'm doing, and work it back that way?
Right. So you had mentioned, you were able to think when you were in prison. I mean, what do you do now, and how do you advise people to carve out the time to sit and think? Because I think that's what gets most people in trouble, because they just are doing, especially with social media and iPhones and everything. Yeah, you get on you're always connected, and you're never thinking.
You get on the spinning wheel that is life, and you don't have time to get off. Personally, I meditate twice a day. That's not actually thinking time, but it certainly helps a great deal. And I dedicate a lot of my time to still learning. So, as an example, at the side of me now, I have, like him or not, I have Jordan Belfort's Straight Line Persuasion course I'm going through. Mm-hmm. I'm doing a lot of learning still. Time to think is this. I think personally, you got to strip it back, say, right, what do I want? What am I doing it for? Because that's the other thing. You get on this hamster wheel that is life, paying the bills. Most people are living paycheck to paycheck. What do I want to be doing in 5 years' time? I know exactly what I want to be doing in 5 years' time. I can't tell you exactly what my day will be made up of, but it will be not very different to what I'm doing now. My only brief of any business that I get involved in is, can I use a mobile phone and a laptop and be anywhere in the world? As long as I can, that's it. Obviously, with the public speaking or whatever you I do, that's different. But actually running a business, for me, I won't do anything that involves physical having to be there other than my public speaking. So the time you need to... the hardest thing in the world is, let's call him Average Bob. A good friend of Mark's friend of mine calls about Average Bob. So you may have been Average Bob in corporate world. You go to work, you work hard, you come home, you're tired, you've got family to look after. Where do you fit the time in to even start? That's the biggest problem people have. I say in my book, one of the best things you can do, if you can financially do it, is quit your job and just spend a solid 6 months working on something. Now, I'd never tell people to go and do that if they've got no backup plan.
Right.
But the biggest evil people have wanting to break free is time.
Right.
And it's incredible. I'm a natural worker. So we're recording this now. It's 7:30 in the evening. When we first spoke, it was I don't know what time it was, but it was approaching midnight.
Right.
So I think nothing of being up until 2 o'clock in the morning. Not because I have to, because I want to. Because actually what I do is not work.
Well,
that's the other thing. How can you make whatever it is you're doing not work? The biggest problem people have, and I did this for the first 2 years of starting again. When you're doing things just for money, I've had everybody, all of the people that have advised me have said, you're only doing things for money. That's the worst thing you can do, which is bloody hard when you need the money because you dismiss it very quickly.
Right.
But if your only driving force is, I got to make the car payment or I got to make the rent payment next week, what am I going to do that? You're on a highway to nowhere. You may be servicing those weekly needs, but it's not happening. So the paradox of what I just said about quitting your job is you've got to build up enough reserves not to have to be worrying about where am I paying the bills for the next 3, 6, or 12 months.
Right.
That's doing things just for money will get you nowhere. And I've sold and done things. Not that they were bad things, but I've sold and done things just for the money. But they weren't really serving me any long-term benefit in doing so.
So where does somebody go, though? I mean, they're the average Bob, right? Or they're just bumping along. How do you... So, okay, let's say they don't want to do it for the money. Let's say somebody is, they enjoy soccer. They enjoy coaching and teaching kids soccer. I mean, but right now maybe they're a school teacher or they're, in sales like I was, and I was helping out, I coach my son's flag football team, then I coach his little league baseball team, and so let's say I'm like, okay, yeah, I really love flag football. But I've got a wife, got kids, got a mortgage.
Well, first thing you need to do is find out if flag football has got enough people even searching for it and interested to make a potential full-time living from it. Okay. You can do that in half an hour. That's a great thing with this business. You can know any market you want to get into. If there's a market there within an hour, you can know.
Okay. How so? There's a lot of people that don't know literally what to do. I mean, just a Google search? I mean, there's more to it than just a Google search.
Google Trends. If you Google Trends, you can type keywords in there and it'll show you the trend of searches by those keywords and graphs as to what people are searching for over what time, ups and downs. So then that's the first place to start.
So what are you looking for then? What kind of numbers indicate something's good?
I would be looking for a constant stream of people. Obviously, there's going to be peaks and troughs depending upon year and depending on the niche you're in. And go into the AdWords. If people are paying premium money for AdWords search terms, there's a market there.
Okay. And then because from Google Trends and Google AdWords, it'll show the average cost per click, right?
Yeah, and if it's very cheap, either you've found a niche nobody's tapping into yet, or there's just no market for it.
Yeah, because it's a catch-22. If it's a really high bid, then maybe it's too competitive. But then if there's not enough bids, then maybe there's no interest.
But that's where you need somebody helping you. You know, anybody that I would talk to, I could easily identify quickly whether it's worth them getting into or not.
Right.
And I'm not pushing my services. I'm just saying there's lots. When you're looking to set up an online business, there are two types of people in the world. There are people that sit on stage, tell you how great their life is, and offer you a course. Always ask yourself, what are they doing it for? Are they doing it for the initial payment, or are they doing it to really help?
Right.
Whenever I sell anything, there's always a long-term win-win in it for me. Either I'm earning along the way with them, or they're potential partners.
Right.
There's a lot of people out there that are just going to take a couple of $1,000s off you, put you through your course and not care.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of great people I know, mainly in the UK, because that's the market kind of I know very well, that offer great courses that normally last 6 to 12 months that really help.
Right.
And I'm sure there are very good US equivalent-based coaches and courses.
Right.
The best thing you can do is get a mentor.
Yep. Get
a coach. I said it in the book. It's true. I have mentors and coaches for different areas of my life. It's the very best thing you can do.
Right.
I'm in the middle of setting up a brand new business called Entrepreneur Action, which is going to be helping businesses, whether they're brand new or existing, doing just that. And I would also say networking. It's not what you know, it's who you know. It is. You've got to know what you're doing, of course. But for me, the best successes I've had over the last 5 years have been from speaking to the right people.
Right.
So that initial getting started, you do your homework. Contact me. I don't mind giving you a free, anybody that's listening to this, hit me up on email. Give me a brief, keep it brief, idea of what you're doing. I'll come back with a pretty honest answer whether I think it's even worth doing or not. I don't mind doing that for some people that listen to this. That's fine.
Okay. Very cool. So what do you talk about here in your book? You talk about Twitter people. What are you meaning here?
In relation to which chapter, mate?
Page 315.
Twitter people. Twitter people, there's a lot. Well, there's two ways of looking at Twitter. I'm a big fan of Twitter, and I've got a lot out of being on Twitter. But there's also a lot of noise on there.
Yep.
There's a lot of BS. And I did the mistake of following hundreds, thousands of people on Twitter. And now I only follow 500 and some odd. They're the people I want to hear from. I'm not interested in anybody else. I made the mistake when I started again of getting to know everybody I could. That was a mistake because there's a lot of BS, certainly in the internet marketing industry.
Right.
So with regards to Twitter, Twitter's a great resource. You get some of the programs like TweetDeck or whatever, you can research a load of stuff what's going on marketing online and in business in general. And that's one of the resources I use. I got my PayPal account back because I tweeted a personal video. In the info marketing world, there's problems sometimes with PayPal because you're not actually shipping a physical product.
Right.
So I had a whole bunch of problems with PayPal, and the new CEO, David Marcus at PayPal, is a great guy, very proactive. He's an entrepreneur himself. So I thought, right, I'm going to shot a YouTube video, tweeted David Marcus the video of me saying, listen, this is why I should get my PayPal account back. I've been with you guys since 99. Give me a break here. And within about 3 days, I got my PayPal account back. That was all the power of Twitter.
Nice. And when was that?
18 months ago now. A year to 18 months ago.
Yeah, so that's pretty recent. Yeah, that's cool. So what are where should people start with affiliate marketing? I mean, you mentioned ClickBank. You know, I was fortunate. I found Infusionsoft, and you talk about, you know, do what you love. And I mean, I liked the program. I was using it myself. I had results. It was easy for me to promote, and they just happened to have an affiliate program. You know, I never really have done a lot with ClickBank and Commission Junction and others, but, you know, where can people start to dabble, or at least, you know, cut their teeth on affiliate marketing?
It depends what market you're in, right? For me personally, the platforms we use, I'm liking what ClickBank are saying now. I got their emails last week that they're reinventing themselves. They need to be fair, but they are. So I'm keeping a close eye on what's going on with that. But you look at some of the niches in the ClickBank. You know, I met a guy a couple of years ago that was making over $1 million a year from an ebook telling people how to jump higher. What's that all about, you know?
Well, if you play basketball or volleyball, you need to jump.
Exactly. So ClickBank's an interesting one because it gets multiple, you know, like the cooking, the recipes, that whole foodie thing's going on, and ClickBank cater to that. If you're into software and marketing, we put a lot of our product launches for software through jvzoo.com.
JVZoo?
JVZoo, yeah, JVZOO.com.
Okay.
That's a very interesting marketplace, more for internet marketing, but there's a lot of good software that goes through there. And then, you know, like there's so many affiliate programs depending on what market you're in. Of course, then you've got the whole CPA model. It just really depends what market you're going into. A good friend of mine's got a skincare product at the moment, and they've got their own affiliate program. They're not on any other independent one. So it really depends. It's like you with Infusionsoft. You know, I mean, that's how we've even got talking. So we're just going through the Infusionsoft planning now, getting up and running with it.
So somebody becomes an affiliate. They find something they like to promote, but if their website isn't getting the traffic, how do they get the traffic to have people click to even begin earning money? Should they try it on social media? Should they?
Well, my opinion is this: the best way of starting is to try and build a mailing list, an email list, right?
Okay.
So how are you going to do that? Well, you offer what's called a squeeze page. To whatever info is you're trying to sell, eventually, you give something away for free of value, proper value, not just BS. So you use something like GetResponse or Aweber or Infusionsoft, of course, if you're a higher level, I would suggest. I hope you agree.
Yep.
Infusionsoft's not for someone that's just starting necessarily.
Right.
Unless you've got a big plan happening very quick.
Yeah. I mean, MailChimp, Aweber, I mean, they're very affordable, you know, to get started.
Yeah. I like GetResponse if you're using JVZoo because they have single opt-in privileges and all kinds of funky stuff going on there. We've just signed up with SendReach as well, SendReach.com. That's really good as well.
Okay.
So you've got to get an email list built, which means you've got to give something away to get that list built. So whatever niche you're in, get something generated. It could be a video of you talking about your specific thing or a report. Get a squeeze page up. We personally use leadpages.net for all of our squeeze pages.
Yep.
That integrates very nicely with all of the autoresponders. It's drag and drop. It's dead easy to use, as you probably know yourself. We're using that for everything. That funnels into everything we do.
Yep. And
get a squeeze page up there. Then get out on the social media and get people sharing it. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, if it's specific to LinkedIn as well, that business market.
Yep.
And build your email list up. And then it's a case of engaging with your list, offering value to the list. And I run on my main non-promotion list, because we have lists that we just promote affiliate products to, but on my normal non-promotion list, we do a 5-1 rule. So 5 pieces of value and content, 1 promotion.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's where you get started. The email list, people say, you know, email's dying and what have you. We make more money out of email promotions than anything in that side of things. So I still think there's a massive power in email if it's done right.
Yeah. And, yeah, there's a lot to it. I mean, you just got to get started. I mean, because people will start doing this, and then they'll realize they're not very good at writing headlines. Then they realize they're not very good at storytelling. Then they're not very good at asking for offers. But you got to start, because the only way to get good is to start.
Starting somewhere, you know. It's very easy to talk. get something done, take some action and get it done today. If you're listening to this now, make sure before you go to sleep, you've done one specific thing to get action taken.
Right. Fantastic. What's some parting words of wisdom you'd have for our listeners?
Oh, I could talk about an hour for parting words of wisdom.
That might have been it, though. Just do one thing today.
Do one thing, take action, and don't get big eyes. Get a plan in between, right? Anybody that comes on a call or consulting call or anything with me, right, what do you want? What are you doing it for? What's the eventual goal? Where do you want to be 6, 12 months by the end of the year? Structure it out and monitor those goals. For me, goals are the biggest thing. I may not hit them all, but it still keeps me going. So the goal may be somebody listening to this, right, I've always fancied doing that. I'm going to go and do it. I'm going to go to elance.com and get a report. If I'm not a great writer, I'm going to go and get a report written about that particular thing.
Yep.
I'm going to go and sign up for an autoresponder company. I'm going to go and get leads pages done so it's very easy for me to get squeeze pages up and running. I'm going to go and sign up to a course to learn about a specific thing. Take action, get it done is departing words. And that's the best advice I could give anyone. And network.
Yep.
You don't have to be physically going to meetings. There's so many resources, so many forums, so many, Facebook groups that you can get a part of to get an idea of what's going on in your particular area of interest.
Right. And so what is your home on the web? Where can people find you?
MarkLyford.com. MarkLyford.com is the place to come and find me. The best way of getting hold of me is on Twitter, twitter.com/Mark Lyford. Tweet me. I personally will get back to anybody that interacts with me. Twitter's the best place, and marklyford.com.
All right. And then where can I get your book? Online? Can I get it at Amazon?
It's all on Amazon. Amazon will sell it. Just search Rebel Entrepreneur or my name, or they can go, if they want to read more about the book and get some free chapters, they can go to rebelentrepreneur.book.com too.
Okay. Very nice. Thank you, sir. Thanks for sharing your story and your words of wisdom.
Thanks, Wes.
All right, man. Cheers.
Bye.
As Mark mentioned in that interview, nobody is neutral about him, right? So whether you condemn him for his actions and his previous income-producing activities, whether you do that or not, there's certainly a lot to learn from his story. And keep in mind, David in the Old Testament was an adulterer and a murderer. Saul was killing Christians before he converted. So, if you're a Bible believing individual, then you believe in the power of redemption and second chances. So, look at Mark's story with an open mind. Because we can learn a lot from him. He talked about, being an entrepreneur is not an easy ride. Quote, being normal in this world gets you nowhere, which is true. He had no structure to his goals. He just wanted to make a lot of money. As he learned, recurring income is the key to business online, and I can back that up as well. Focus on what interests you or you'll get bored. Pick something with high demand and high margin. If you're new to affiliate marketing, check out something like ClickBank. As you mentioned, they're changing. You can find higher price items there to sell, which is another key to making money. Sell a lot and sell more at higher prices. Focus on those 4 areas he mentioned: getting traffic, affiliate marketing, membership sites, and list building. That's what he's teaching now to help people build their businesses online. But as he mentioned, there's nothing online that's easy, but it does help you keep your overhead low, which helps you get started. And that was one of my keys. I had Cliff Ravenscraft on in the past. He kept his overhead low. He lived under his means, which helped him and his wife launch his business and leave the family business and insurance. It's always been my story. I married a woman that's very frugal, and I don't need to keep up with the Joneses either. And so by living under our means, she's been able to stay home now for over 18 years and raise our now 7 children. So it can be done. You can raise a family on one income. You can launch a business when just one spouse is working, but keeping your expenses low is key. So a lot more notes. Please visit thesaleswhisper.com/session61 for the show notes. And as I mentioned at the beginning, please show a little love to the Sales Podcast. Visit thesaleswhisper.com/love. And the tweet will be pre-written. You just have to hit enter. If you need a little more sales advice, if you want to know how I built my profession and career as a salesperson, check out 30daysalesgrowth.com. Enter promo code podcast to save 30%. As always, thanks for listening to the Sales Podcast, and remember to sell different.